Hey guys, so we are going to be doing a little presentation here, and then you're going to be assigned some work to do in your Canvas pages. So the first thing I want to talk about today, we are going to be learning about the element squares. So if you were to look behind me at the periodic table of elements, there are little squares there which with elements in them. And I'm going to tell you what is included in that little square so that you know what you're looking at when you look up there at that periodic table. So let's get started. So we are introducing an element square. So when I zoom in on that periodic table and I try to find carbon, which I believe is over here up at the top. So when I look at carbon, I'm going to see these 4 pieces of information in there. Now, depending on the periodic table that you pull up, so if you Google and look up a periodic table of elements, you're going to find they look pretty different from each other. So some of them have the name, some of them have just the symbols, so they will look different when you look them up. But ours in the classroom do not have names, so they just have the symbol, the atomic mass, and the atomic number, which we're going to learn about today. So in here, we have the element symbol, which is located there. And we also have the atomic number, the element name, and the atomic weight. So let's look a little deeper at each one of these. So the first one is the symbol, which is a letter. So there's always a capital letter if there is one single letter. So this one is a capital C for carbon. So if there is 2 letters, which if you look up here, there are some that have 2 letters, the first letter is always capitalized. The second letter is always lowercase. So when you look up there and you see a capital letter, that is one single element. If it's a capital letter and a lowercase, that means it is also an element, but it has 2 letters in its symbol. So make sure that capital part is very important when we do chemical equations, because when you write 2 elements next to each other, that capital letter becomes very, very important. So the next one is the element name. So not all periodic tables will have a name on them. Sometimes you will have to look some up that have names, but this element square does. The ones in my classroom do not have a name. So you will need to make sure, if you don't know the symbols, memorize the symbols, you do need to look up the names. So you are trying this one. It says, what is the name of this element? So you have to look. Li stands for lithium. So the atomic number is next. We talked about this when we looked at protons, neutrons, and electrons. So the atomic number is the number of protons that are in the nucleus of an atom of an element. So when I look at an atom, one singular atom of carbon, it has 6 protons in its nucleus. So we also know, though, that if an element is stable, there is going to be 6 protons, 6 neutrons, and 6 electrons. So we know that number 6 is actually pretty important because it means that there is that same number of each of those parts of the atom. So now it's asking what is the atomic number of lithium, and that would be the whole number 3. So atomic numbers are always whole numbers. They will never have a decimal. The atomic weight, however, does have a decimal, so it is never a whole number, and the reason for that is because the mass of that electron is always a fraction. So electrons do not weigh a whole amount. They're very, very tiny, so they're going to weigh very little. So that's why we're always going to have a decimal here, because electrons are so small, they have a fraction of a weight. So you're always going to have 12.011 or 34.52. It's always going to have a decimal. So that atomic weight is usually at the very bottom of the square at all times, no matter what periodic table you look at. So this one's asking, what is the mass of lithium? It is the number that is not whole. It is the decimal, so 6.941. So it is important to note, as I've been mentioning throughout this, that depending on the periodic table you look at, you're going to see element squares that have these same bits of information. They're just rearranged in the square. So on some periodic tables, you have the atomic number that's in the corner. Some of them are in the center, very much like right here. So I'm lower myself a little bit. So Right here, you have the atomic number in the center. So again, depending on which periodic table you're looking at, you could have the number in different locations. So this is some practice you guys can do on your own time. I'll provide this presentation for you, but we won't do that for time's sake, to kind of test yourself. And then, of course, the work for today is going to be found on Canvas. So if we go to Canvas, you are going to be going to the lesson identifying an element, which is in our module right here. So in our module, you are going to be going to this identifying an element. So lesson identifying an element. You are going to be looking at this page. So you read through it and you fill out a notes page that I will provide right here. It'll be linked. It'll also be sent on announcements for you to fill out. So you'll look by clicking here, it'll send you to a page, you fill out a notes page, and you keep that in your binders. Then we completed this presentation together, but we would have done so in class if we were together. And then of course the last thing you're going to do is this identifying an element digital worksheet. So you're going to be completing these slides. So it looks like this when you open it up. And this one I am doing for you because I want you to have the info. But this first slide, slide number 2, shows you the different parts of the element square, and I labeled them for you. You're going to do the same thing, so make sure you label them the same way. And then the atomic number, remember, is the number of protons and neutrons. And then the atomic mass is actually the number of protons and neutrons plus your electrons. So it's all of the stuff of the atom. So I put P and N because I couldn't fit it all, but that's what you're going to put. So the rest of these slides you are going to complete, and there's 2 things you need to complete on every slide. So there is something missing from the element square. So it's either going to be the atomic number, the symbol, the name, or the atomic mass. So one of them is going to be missing, which means you have to Google, look up a periodic table of elements, and pull one up that you can see everything. So I like this one. And now what I can do with that is if I'm missing the atomic number, I don't know what lithium's atomic number is. So if I look it up on the periodic table, there's lithium, the atomic number is 3. So I can go back to my assignment. Okay, and I can type in the atomic number here. So I can do atomic number here, and then I have number of protons, neutrons, electrons. Remember, same thing as atomic number, and then atomic mass. So I need to fill in this table with information, and I need to fill in this element square for every slide. Okay, so hopefully you guys can get that done today and submitted. Don't forget to go back to Canvas and push submit.